Hi there, I'm Christine with What's Up Cupcake Whimsical Crafts, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this is my crafty space where I talk about all things crochet related, whether it's making amigurumi plushies or handmade stitch markers, amigurumi sticks, painting safety eyes installers, all sorts of things. And if you have been here before, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. I have an action-packed video today. Action-packed? I have a lot of updates today. So today I'm going to talk about the market prep leading up to my last market, which I had this past weekend. And this market in particular had a book fair theme. So I was doing some items that were outside of the normal range of products that I'm normally making. And this was a new market, I believe, completely new in Raleigh. There might have been one previously that took place, but generally a really new market and market organizer entering the scene, and I'm excited to give a recap of the event. So grab a project to work on, grab a cozy drink, and let's jump right in. Before we talk about the makes that I made specifically for this book fair market, I want to talk about the makes that I have for the last 2 weeks of the Crochet Roulette Challenge. So I've been a bit behind in the Crochet Roulette Challenge, just trying to be kind to myself and not force myself into doing more than I can actually handle. And if you watched my last video, I had some really big plans for this week. I was feeling like ready to go, in a good headspace. And Tuesday morning, I ended up having to go to urgent care for some health issues. So it kind of derailed my plans a little bit, but everything's fine. I got everything taken care of, had some meds that took a minute to kick in, and once they did, it was fine. But just can't always expect what life is going to throw at you. So I still really wanted to focus on getting items ready for this market, as well as doing some items for the Crochet Roulette Challenge that is put together by Travel Crochet Tracy. So if you are participating in this challenge, make sure you're using the hashtag Crochet Roulette 2025. And we love seeing the things that you're making. Tracy does a roundup of all of the items that are submitted, I think by Thursday, maybe Friday, Australia time, and does a video recap as long as that hashtag is used. And ideally, if you're able to tag her and the other makers that are kind of driving this fun challenge. So we only have maybe 3 weeks left of the challenge at this point. And I still don't know what I'm going to make for this week in order to fulfill the challenge. But again, I'm not going to stress over it. I am trying to really work on my market prep and have fun with all of these different things that are going on, especially with this little lull now between markets. But I did make some cute little goodies for the last 2 weeks. So first up, we had a sea life challenge with the color pink, and I made these little itty bitty shrimpies. This is a free pattern from Sweet Beans Crochet, Robin, and you can find it on her Instagram account. Everything that I share on here, if I don't pop it on the top of the screen or if I don't name the maker, it's because I just don't know it off the top of my head, but it will all be linked in the description below. You can go to whatsupcupcakecrafts.com, and that's my website where you'll find links to my favorite supplies that I use for markets, for my business, my Etsy shop where I have my safety eyes, my safety eye installer tools, amigurumi sticks, all of that fun stuff, and my favorite patterns, favorite yarns, all of those things. So if I'm talking about a pattern, it should be in that link. If you do not see it in the link, just drop a comment below and I am happy to add it. But I made these fun little shrimpies. I actually hope to make quite a few more. I'm thinking I'll sell these for like $7. They take a minute, but they're like generally fast, and you don't have to do safety eyes. Maybe $6. I don't know. I really need to like time myself making them, but it is a fun, cute little make, and I love how they fulfilled this challenge. When I was trying to think of what I would make that is a sea life creature and in the color pink, I was having a hard time because I do also sometimes like have a hard time stepping outside the box in terms of colorways of making projects. And so I kind of gravitated to something that is like actually pink in the ocean. And on top of that, I have my May Crab, which is based off a character from My Neighbor Totoro from Studio Ghibli. And that is pink. But I was like, I don't want to not like take the easy way out of like doing my own pattern for that. And not that like these little shrimpies are not easy, but I have a large shrimp pattern that I have had at my market. I've had a couple of them. I sold one, but one kind of like lives in my market bag. Sometimes I put it out, sometimes I don't, because I don't have a good space to like display it at the moment when I do my setup, which maybe that'll be a talking point for another video. But I knew I wanted more shrimp because the shrimp does get a lot of attention, but it's big. So like you really have to love shrimp in order to, I guess, spend $25 or whatever it is for that shrimp. But like getting into the breakdown of things that sold this weekend, I just realized I was like, I need more kind of like silly little things like shrimpies. So I've got 2 little shrimp. So this is covering last week's, 2 weeks ago's challenge. This past week that just wrapped up, so this video is only like a day late in that perspective. It was safari animals, and I had a good idea of what I wanted to make for this. This is actually an item for replenishment for my markets. I do need to like push in the yarn ends, but these are done. I just didn't have scissors on me that were good for yarn ends. But it was safari animals and pastels. So I did this pastel hippo in blue, purple, and then I made this itty bitty one. Again, like it just needs to have the yarn stuffed in. But how cute is this little like family? I almost debated too, do I sell them as a 2-pack, like the mama and baby, and maybe it's like $20 for the 2? Because I charge anywhere from like 14 to 16 for these. I made this one a little bit bigger just because my previous 4mm hook size was occupied with another project. So it did come out bigger. So I think I'm going to do $16 for this one. And I was thinking like $5 or $6 for the mini, but again, maybe I do 2 for 20, like the mom and baby for 20. What do you think? I'd be curious about that. Because I could, you know, crank out a few more of the babies, but honestly, I'd prefer to just do, if I had to pick between the 2, I'd probably just do the larger one. And I don't like, they aren't a top seller at my booth, but I probably sell at least 1 or 2 every couple of markets. And I think they're really cute. I like having them out. It's just on, I have like a stacking shelf of smaller plushies, and I just think they're adorable little hippos. So I'll probably make at least 1 more, maybe in gray. But I love how the little pastel ones turned out. So that was perfect for this challenge. And yeah, that fulfilled the last 2 weeks of Crochet Roulette 2025. So if you're posting, I would love to see it. Just make sure you use a hashtag or tag me if it's on Instagram, and I'm happy to share the post to my stories. All right, now let's get into the bookish themes for this upcoming market and some of the new makes that I made to meet that theme, as well as kind of a collection of bookish items in general that I threw together as part of like my brainstorming of how I could cater to a bookish audience. Before I dive into that, I just wanted to call out I have kind of a new setup. If you've been here before, I switched out the chair that I had with this little like small love seat sofa thing that I got from Wayfair. And I really like the chair, but it took up a lot of space, and I just had repurposed it from another room in my house. So I put it back in that room, and I got this little love seat sofa thing for under $200 on Wayfair. It was on sale, and it's kind of perfect because I can stretch out on it. I can sit on it with a cat, or like when I have a friend come over, usually her daughter and her are fighting over who gets the one chair that's in the room. Now they can sit in this together. It has more options. And I like that I could also kind of choose if I'm going to have like the yarn behind me, or if I'm going to have my other bookcase. I don't know. I just want to change things up. So I actually did change up my room a little bit, mostly just moving things around. This was the only new thing that I added to it. So I'll show that off at some point once I'm a little less in like post-market chaos and things are tidier. I don't know if that ever actually happens, but let's talk about books. So I will show the setup for this market a little bit further on, but essentially the vision that I had was I wanted to have little cubes that were set up that had each kind of like book cover as a picture or display within each of the cubes, and then character or characters that went with that book. So I was able to use some characters I had already made before that I hadn't been bringing to markets, just because, again, display issues, or they might have come to some markets, but then I stopped bringing them because I just didn't have the space. So first off, looking at kind of kids items, because while this was like a book fair, not like the Scholastic variety, it was a book fair organized by a local event organizer who had artists that covered both kids' books, books for adults, bookish merchandise, foods, just like a whole variety of things with an ultimate theme of books. So I wanted to be able to tie into that theme and stand out as a plushie vendor, and lean a little bit more into what that could look like. And, you know, I'll talk about some of the ideas I came up with. Some of them I was able to execute exactly as I wanted. Others I was like, next time I'm going to do this. And there will be a next time. I'm doing their next market in November, which is on Small Business Saturday. And it's hopefully going to be at the same location, but outdoors. This one was supposed to be outdoors, but the weather was showing rain, so it was moved indoors. We'll talk about that. So first off, talking about the kids' books, I started with The Little Prince, which is one of my all-time favorite children's books. And I had made this crochet plushie previously. I really love the patterns that this one crochet designer does, Crochetlandia. And they just have so many amazing characters. They are time consuming, but they look amazing. I have not necessarily been able to get them to stand up on their own. You probably could if you're doing like a finer yarn than the plushie yarn that I'm doing. But I have some stands that I got from Amazon that I used to stand up each of the characters, and no one's asked to keep the stand. I could probably throw it in if they really wanted it, or, you know, direct them where to get them from. But I think that they just look really nice, kind of freestanding in the cube with their book backdrop and the plushie itself. But The Little Prince was just so much fun to make. The hair was a lot, but I love how it turned out. I think of all of the hair that I did for the characters, that one is probably my favorite from like the final vision of how it all turned out. So that was the first cube. Moving on from The Little Prince, we had Harry Potter. And I made this little Harry Potter figure, and I actually had one of my crochet friends, Clever Fox Crochet, reach out ahead of time asking to reserve one if that one sold. but like I could put it on display still or make another one, whatever worked out, so that I still had one for the market itself to be on display, which I feel like if you are another fellow vendor, you 100% know the struggle of, yes, you like love that someone wants to buy something, but you're like, but can I have it out first so other people can see it too and give them the chance to buy? So I really appreciated that she offered that. She did come to the market and ultimately picked up that one there, but I will definitely be doing another Harry Potter again. And with that, and the Harry Potter display in particular, I also added a few more items. I added the snowy owl. This owl is one of the best-selling items that I have at my booth, especially when I do it in white or off-white or some variation of that, where it is like the snowy owl look. And it's a reasonably quick make because it does have like very few components to it. I use my own hand-painted safety eyes. You can find eyes like these in my Etsy shop, but you're really just sewing in wings. I do add weighted pellets, or in this case I added yarn scraps and I put them in like a nylon sock, and it really like gives it that extra little heft and weight, but it's still squishy and snuggly. So the snowy owl I think is perfect for a Harry Potter display, as well as a phoenix. So I made another phoenix. This item in this like almost exact same appearance sold at my last market that I had, so I had to make another one for this market. And in this instance I used Naughty Pony yarn. I think that the colors are perfect for this. They're just vibrant. It's her red, orange, and yellow, and no notes. Like, absolutely love the way this phoenix turns out with her yarn. It's so soft. I also do add the weighted pellets in the body of this, so it does sit really well, but it's still snuggly. And yeah, I just think that my Harry Potter cube was perfect with the owl, the phoenix, Mr. Potter himself. I feel like you could do a lot with that. Like you could add in little snakes, you could add cats, so on and so forth. So however you can kind of lean into various aspects and characters from those books, also to the point where it can kind of just remind people like, oh my gosh, yes, my favorite is Crookshank the cat, or whatever it might be, and assign kind of like a personality to an item that someone might not otherwise have thought of. So that was the Harry Potter setup. On to a classic, which more so for grown-ups, but Pride and Prejudice. I did Mr. Darcy. Once again, a Crochetlandia pattern, and he is just so dapper. His hat can come off. I attach it with the tag just so that it doesn't like fall off into the display abyss. But even like the back, the little tails that he has, I was so excited to make this. He got a ton of attention this weekend. No home yet, but I know that he will find his forever home soon. And yeah, I think like the way that this one just looks, it's perfect. I mean, even the way the hair like just kind of has the little curl up, and it was such a fun make. And moving on to a different part of the British Isles, we have Jamie from Outlander. So this James Fraser was a beast to make, primarily because of the kilt. I think I mentioned it on here before, and if you go through my videos, you can see like in my videos from years and years and years ago, before they were crochet videos, I used to do Scottish dancing, Scottish Highland dancing. So I knew when I was going to do the kilt that I had to like do some justice to it. It's obviously not a real kilt by any means, but I was looking up the colors of the kilt and was just trying to get that overall feeling of the Fraser kilt as brought to life in the Outlander series. And so I did the gray base for the yarn, and then I added the brown and purple stitching with like worsted weight yarn within it. And from there, the hair was also a beast. I have this problem of reading patterns sometimes where, especially when it comes to hair, it'll say, you know, the first line of instruction, chain whatever, the slip stitch back, and then it gets smaller. And I read it and was like, oh, there's only like 8 things to do. I missed the part where it said rows 1 to 13 are all the longest hair. So, yeah, thankfully, again, it was at the end. So then I was like, all right, here we go. We're just going to finish off all this hair. But so satisfying to make. I think he came out super dapper. All of her patterns, she recommends putting like a little button sewn at the bottom of the feet. I actually just printed out a disc with my 3D printer and put that in. Again, I don't know. I mean, like if you balanced it perfectly, they probably could stand up on their own, but like a stiff breeze could blow them over. So I just didn't want to risk that. And I had them on little display stands. All right, let's talk about some of the other books that I have represented. And then I want to talk about books I did not have represented, but I wanted to, or I think would be great for like a future book fair type market, or if you know you're thinking about doing bookish items, some things that you could also do to like expand upon this. So another one that I did was the octopus. I think it's Marcel. I can't remember. It's been a minute since I read the book. From Remarkably Bright Creatures. So I did the pattern from Dew Cotton, and I did it in orange and white, again with Naughty Pony yarn. And I had that on display next to the book cover, and it was beautiful. I actually had 2 of those octos. I did a purple one. I think I did that one as part of the no, it wasn't Share the Love. I don't know. I did it recently when the octopus pattern originally came out, and I was just excited to make it. And I did one in Naughty Pony in purple and white. And that one sold first at the market. And then actually someone that I knew, I saw them shopping at the book fair, and I was like, hey, so-and-so, and like waved, and we started talking, and they were looking through the booth, and they said they wanted to get the octopus for a gift for a grandbaby. And they were like, I'm going to give them this book, or give them this octopus and then a book about sea creatures. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought like you saw the book cover and we're getting it because of that. She was like, oh, could I get them that book? And I was like, it's not really for like babies, but you could get it for the parents. It's a really good book though, if you haven't read it. Remarkably Bright Creatures. And so yeah, that octo, he also got a lot of attention, and it was just fun to have people walk up to the booth and like comment on different book characters, which brings me to the next character. This one got a lot of attention, and it was kind of funny hearing some of the kids talking about it like, oh, he's creepy. Pennywise from It by Stephen King. So I had that as a little display. I put wire in his balloon after just like kind of fine-tuning the pattern and wanting the balloon to stand upright. I think that's kind of a whole thing with the character anyways, to have this kind of singular red balloon upright. So I decided to add in that floral wire, and I think it really did like complete the look. And he was delightfully spooky and got plenty of attention from people. Either, you know, people saying, oh my gosh, it's Pennywise, or oh, it's Pennywise. So that was really fun. And it was nice being able to also like have conversation with people at the market throughout about different books and the characters and things like that. And on to one of the last characters that I had on display before we talk about some that I would like to have represented next time. But I had Elphaba from Wicked. I did not remember to print the cover of that book, so I just had Elphaba kind of on her own on display. And that one I made with a Crochet Grove doll pattern. And there's just so many components to it that you can kind of like mix and match how you want to assemble that creation. So yeah, I made an alphabet out of it. And once again, got a lot of love, especially with the movie coming out, the final movie in the series. I think it's like the perfect time to have an alphabet in your collection. So we'll talk about how that went in the market recap in just a few minutes. On to some final bookish character thoughts that I think could be added or that I would like to have for my next market. With the Outlander theme, I did put a Loch Ness Monster in that display because Scotland. And I also had a Highland cow, but I only had a white Highland cow because I sold out of my orange Highland cows. So I am going to replenish my large orange Highland cows for my next market. I think it would be fun too to have like some maybe smaller Highland cows as well, just to hit a lower price point because my other one is fairly large. Aside from the Highland Cow Scotland theme, also you could definitely have items like dragons. I did have some dragons. I just didn't have a display that was specifically tied to a book, but I put it in my bookish area. And I did them in colors like gray and black. Next time I will do some more dragons in other colors to represent like fourth wing dragons or maybe, you know, fury dragons, things like that. But at least, especially with like an adult book fair like this was, or has a larger audience of people who probably read fourth wing, ACOTAR, things like that. There's no dragons in ACOTAR, but I'm just saying. You could definitely have more characters like that, more dragons. You know, look up some colorways of popular dragons in literature. Also, I did have someone asking for a griffin. I had just downloaded the new griffin pattern by, I think, Pocketful of Posies. I just didn't have time to make it. As well as wyverns. Those have been very present in fiction recently. I mean, for a long time, but most recently I've been reading about wyverns a little bit more. And gargoyles. I have my gargoyle. I really wanted to do the book cover for The Night and the Moth, and I intended to. Again, I just forgot to print it out. So my next event, I will have the cover of The Night and the Moth next to a gargoyle, and I'll have Elphaba next to Wicked, and just have a little bit more representation from that. Also, Kiki's Delivery Service. I had hoped to do Gigi the cat. I do have a copy of the book for Kiki's Delivery Service, so I thought that would be fun to have represented. Sorry for the shakiness. My dog just decided to lie down and then decided she didn't want to lie down there. So, yeah, so just some ideas of bookish characters. In addition, bookworms. I really wanted to make some bookworms. I didn't have time. As well as little like bookmarks. I did have my book sleeves, Kindle sleeves, and coffee koozies. Those did well, but we'll talk about that in a second. So that was pretty much all of the bookish items that I could think of that I would recommend. If you think of any others, I think I asked this in my last video, but if that like sparked anything where you're like, oh my gosh, you should do this next time too, let me know, because I do have another book fair market at the end of November, and I, with that, have a little bit more time to plan some more show-stopping items. But let's get into the market recap itself. All right, so time for the market recap for the Raleigh Book Fair. This was on Saturday the 27th, and the fair was from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Nope, 4 p.m. And the market was supposed to be outside, but we had the hurricane that was forecasted to come through, and we were going to get the after effects of it. So there was like just nonstop rain, 6 inches of it. She's just going to keep walking back and forth. She's indecisive. We were forecasted to get like 6 inches of rain. So they decided to move the fair indoors. They were either going to try for Sunday, which Sunday was forecast to be rain all day. It didn't rain a drop, but it was forecasted to. And then the next plan was the following Saturday. But they were able to move it indoors, which was great. This area is like an up and coming kind of, like there were a lot of warehouses there originally and kind of undeveloped. And they've been building it into a office space with retail shops below, some housing. It's like building up into kind of like a fun outdoor shopping area. It's going to be really nice when it's done. And it's really nice now, but it's still like not completely filled out. So they do have some big empty spaces throughout that are like waiting for tenants. So we were moved into one of those open spaces, and in addition to that, there was space under a covered walkway in the front, and then there was space across the street. But again, it's like a shopping row, so it's still very much within the vicinity and you can see it. There was like a covered area across the street where there were some more vendors. So the setup was no necessarily like, they didn't really have defined spots. Maybe she had an idea in her head when she was coming up with where people would go, but it was kind of first come, first serve, which I haven't had that. I'm trying to think if I've ever had that with my markets thus far. And I've only been doing markets now in this most recent iteration for a year. So first come, first served. As a person who's very anxious, and yeah, let's just leave it at that. I was there early. So you could get there as soon as 9 a.m. to set up for the 11 a.m. market start. And I got there early before 9 because I figured if anything, I wanted to beat the rain because it was forecasted to start around 9-ish. And luckily I did that. I was able to beat the rain, but pretty much got there maybe 10, 15 minutes before 9 and just started unloading like outside in front of where everything was so we could park the car and then get our space assignment. So just about 9, the organizers started handing out assignments of like, okay, you can go here, or would you prefer to be here? So she asked if I wanted to be in the front, across the street, or inside the main building. I said, let's go inside the main building because first time doing this, I had no idea. I didn't have a tent. Having plushies, I was worried that if it was outdoors in any capacity, like if it was windy and raining, would stuff like start to gather moisture? I didn't want to risk it. So I went indoors. What I did not realize, / probably all of the vendors did not realize, there was no air indoors. So it was hot. And while it was like a rainy day outside in general, it was very muggy. So indoors was so hot and there was just no real airflow. There were like 3 doors overall, but just regular doors to get in and out of the building, and one main entrance. And so the air was just hanging out in there. So that was really just the biggest struggle of the whole day. The rest of it, fantastic. All the vendors started coming in. They had a staggered entry for setup. So the vendors themselves could come in starting at 9, and then it was like 9:30 could be food vendors, 10 o'clock could be authors. Like it was staggered like that. So there were regular like vendors selling wares and things like that. There were bookshops that were coming and setting up. There were mobile bookshops that had like giant backsides of trucks or utility attachments that were filled with little bookstores. And then there were also authors set up at tables with their books where they could sign, do meet and greets, all of that stuff. So the authors were pretty much in the center, and everything else on the perimeter was vendors. In front, it was mostly food vendors outside with one candle vendor, I think. And then across the way, there were a few more vendors of various items like home decor, candles, jewelry, things like that. So I had a decent spot. It was not the 10 by 10 spot that I would have had if I was in a tent outside. It was 10 by 8, but it worked out perfectly. I just did kind of a long stretch of a space, also because there was a pole kind of in the middle of my booth. And so I think because of that, she maybe gave me a little bit extra space along the way. And that worked out great because I was able to have everything kind of in one long row. And there was going to be a walkway between with then like tables of the aisles of authors. So yeah, setting up, it went pretty good. I think I had like maybe 30 minutes of downtime between when I started setting up at like 9 o'clock on the dot until 10:30, and maybe even I might have gone a little bit longer than that, but I had my first sale at 10:40. So one of the other vendors came up and she actually wanted to buy one of my owls, and she was the person who asked about a griffin because her book featured those creatures as like characters, and she was thinking about doing a giveaway with it, all of that stuff. So that was really fun to have the first sale way before the market started. But I mean, once it like officially went live, it was crazy. It was so busy. That room was so jam-packed with people. So let me just go ahead and drop in some footage from the event. I have some footage of the space itself, all the people shopping, my booth, things like that. So let's take a look at that before we get into some more of the finer details, including the breakdown of items, numbers, all that good stuff.
Truth is, for 2020 you were acting funny. I never let it hurt somebody more. At the end of the day, I was never out to get you. You left me better off, hope you found what you're looking for. You were always fighting in the van and quitting mid-tour. Never taking any blame like you were perfect, oh Lord. You're still the same, people don't change, and I couldn't take much more. Think before you speak out loud, cause you talk too much laying on your couch. And I'm better off. Hurts to know you're too late now, but you talk too much and you love the sound. Think I'm better off. We used to hang out every day, we had each other. By January I could feel the tension building more. I tried my best to not hold anything against you. You tried your best to calm me down and start another war.
So yeah, the market just kicked off with a bang. Like it just was going nonstop from the beginning. My husband was helping me set up, but he had to run home because one of my kids was having a little emergency. My sister was home, but like it was kind of one of those things where they called upset and just needed a parent to be there. So he rushed home to go help with that. But I already knew when he came back that I was going to need a fan. And we have our little like chargeable fan that we use for camping. So I was like, you got to bring that when you come back because it's hot. So it was just me manning the booth for the start. And at first it was a lot of like foot traffic and people just looking around. But it started to kind of pick up, getting a steady pace of people buying things. I had lines quite a few times. Lots of people commenting on the various characters in the character display. I did not bring my gachapon machine because I just didn't have time to replenish it. And I only had like 4 little like of the capsules within my gachapon machine. So I need to fill that out before my next market. I did have my wheel spinner where you can get 5% off, free sticker, free candy, free button. 5% off kept hitting. Like, it's funny, the last time I had that spinner, it only hit once. And this time it hit probably 5 or 6 times. And stickers and pins were like 3 or something like that. Like it really was just kind of a crazy ratio compared to the last time when it barely ever came up. And again, the only issue with that is that you have to have them spin before they make their purchase so that you can enter the discount in when you're doing checkout. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and tap. And you can be like, no, wait, go ahead and spin first. And then let's see what you get. And then we can tap. So I did do my like clear frosted bags this time. I had larger stickers that I put on them to make the What's Up cupcake stand out a bit more. And I think those worked out great. I do think it probably was a good like advertising technique, people being able to see some of the cute things that were in those bags as people were shopping. So I do like those as an alternative now to the paper bags. I did have some paper bags on hand still, and that was good as well because I had some people who were like, this is a gift for someone, I need to buy it really quick so they don't see it. And so I was able to, like, in those cases, give them the paper bag so they can kind of discreetly carry around what it was that they had. So some of the notable items that I sold, because some of the items, the way I had them listed, like spooky snail. I had the spooky snail with a skull on the back, a pumpkin, and a cauldron. So the spooky snail with the pumpkin was one of the first items that sold outside of the vendor purchase. The orange splooting cat, the orange and white one that I made from the Avalon Crochet splooting cat pattern. I sold quite a few stitch markers, amigurumi sticks, and like tools for crocheters. I had them better displayed this time, and I made a bigger sign to say like for crocheters. And so I had a lot of people coming up to look at that. So that was really nice to see that starting to like take off. And then I could also point them to my online shop and say like, oh, I have more selection on there. Or people would ask for specific things and I could say like, yep, I have that on my online shop, or no, I don't, but I can make it. The only thing someone asked me for that I don't make is crochet hooks. And I just don't have the plan to do that at this time. But yeah. Of those items, I have K-pop Demon Hunter inspired stitch markers. It's the Derpy Cat and the Magpie. And I sold 3 sets of those, and I only brought 3, but those went quickly. And yeah, so the heat was an issue. Like, you definitely, everyone you saw walking by either brought fans, like the little handheld fans, or was fanning themselves and commenting on the heat. I think the only issue with that was that people probably weren't hanging out to shop more because it was so hot. They just want to get out of the building. I did hear that the other area outside, while it was not as hot, it was very crowded and congested because it's like a walkway. It was also the walkway to the bathrooms. So that was a little overwhelming, but I do think that if this was outside as it was originally intended and on the street with all of the vendor tents, it would have been perfect. Not an issue at all. And I do 100% appreciate that they moved it indoors because of the forecasted weather. I think I looked outside once and it was raining, so I was annoyed with the weather forecast, but you can't help that. And again, like, I couldn't have dealt with my plushies getting wet, so I'm glad that we were inside because of it. I just wish I had my fan from the get-go. Once I had my fan, it definitely helped. And I need to just remember to bring that going forward, especially if I think it's going to be indoors, because you just never know if there's going to be airflow or not. And I think because this was like an unrented out space, they don't necessarily have utilities and stuff that they want to turn on for that. And that makes sense. Like, I don't fault them for that at all. Yeah, so let's talk about some numbers of things that sold. So I brought my new hook size tags. I didn't bring a lot of them. I think I just brought 3, and I sold one of those. I sold my little Luffy pirate from One Piece, and I brought him to my last market, but I put him out super late because I just totally didn't have space and lost him in the shuffle of everything in my bags. So he sold pretty early on at this, and they were very excited to show me they had a One Piece wallet. So I was like, I just like seeing when people are fans of something, and I have something that like meets that, you know, the amount of people that would get excited about Studio Ghibli or, again, different book characters. It's just really fun to talk to people about things they're passionate about. And yeah, the One Piece fan was very excited. I sold one single stitch marker. The rest I sold were pairs. I sold one Oogie Boogie. That was the first time I had brought this item. I call him Bug Guy. And the person that was buying him had a good laugh about that. But yeah, Oogie Boogie, I made him at the last market, and I finished him up when I got home because I had to like focus to attach the head to the body for that one. But really fun pattern. And the new artichoke color, I think it is, from Premier Parfait is perfect for Oogie Boogie. So I'm looking forward to making another one of those, especially before my next market, which will be a Halloween theme. I sold Elphaba. That was very exciting. I'm definitely going to make another one. And this Elphaba was a gift for a child that was about to become a big sister. And so the person was saying that she wanted to get her something that she was like, you know, as soon as a younger sibling comes in, the older sibling doesn't get as much attention and stuff. So she wanted a gift for her, and I thought that was very sweet. And as an oldest child, I concur. I sold one calcifer from when I did the Woolly Tunes pattern test. I made a couple of calcifers. I sold one at my last market, sold one at this, and I actually had someone come up to me at the end of this market asking if I still had one, and I told them I sold it. But I plan on making some more of those again, and this time I have the Honey Bunny yarn. I think it's like the smaller version. I haven't used it yet, but I plan on using that to make calcifer for my next market and making a couple of them. I think that like yarn will look beautiful with it. I sold Haku, my river dragon. So again, lots of attention for the Studio Ghibli inspired items this time, and someone was very excited about Haku, so that was fun. I sold one small Totoro. I had 2 small Totoros. I sold one of them. One of those, though, I also attached the leaf on while I was there, so it didn't go out until later in the market. I sold Harry Potter. I sold one axolotl, and I sold one cappuccino. Fun story about those guys. So this being the book fair, I was really hoping to see this local book talker that lives in our area, Bookstagrammer. I follow her. It's That Girl Reads. I'll put her name on the screen just because it's not spelled quite like that, like it's missing letters and whatever. So I've been following her for, I don't know, a year and a half now, maybe longer. And I knew she was in our area, and every once in a while she goes to book events that I would have wanted to go to, or whatever instance where I'm like, oh, maybe I'll see her there. So I was supposed to go to a market a few weeks ago because Clever Fox Crochet was going to be there, and I was going to visit her, but it was a busy day. I was exhausted. Oh, it was when we did our like sunflower tour, and it was so hot that day that by the time I was done like exploring all the sunflower field things, I did not want to leave my house again. So I remember she went to that market, and I saw it in her stories, and I was like, oh, I was going to go there. I wanted to see her, but what can you do? So at one part during the market this time, it was a little slow, And I checked my Instagram and I saw on her stories, like cleaning the house today or something. I'm like, okay, well, I guess she's not going to the book fair. Well, another fast forward a couple hours, I look at my stories again and she's there. Not only is she there, she's like, the photo she took was 2 booths away from me. And that photo was taken or posted 20 minutes prior. So I was like, oh my gosh, she's here. Like, is she in the building still? So I turned on full, like, oh my gosh, can I find her? So I asked my vendor neighbor who does permanent jewelry, and she was lovely, Jackie. She was a delight. So I asked her if she could keep an eye on my booth for a second because there was a little lull. I was like, just keep, you don't have to do anything. Just, you can tell them that I ran out and I'll be right back. So I did like a quick sweep inside the building and I looked at stories and she had just posted a picture of like candles. I know, this sounds super stalker. I'm sleuthing. Also, I love true crime and I love to sleuth in general. So I was like, picture candles. This looks like a vendor that I have not seen within this. They must be across the street. So I went across the street and sure enough, there she was. And so she was there with a bunch of people. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jamie, I just want to say hi. I'm a huge fan. Super awkward. Whatever. I'm here vending, but I had to run out and just say hi really quick because I love your reviews and I love all your books that you talk about and completely agree that Fourth Wing is the worst. Don't come at me. So she was like, oh, well, let's go see your booth. So I told her where I was. She's like, oh, we were over there. We just didn't like stop by that one. And one of the people that was with her was like, I actually, like, I saw her face. I'm like, oh, she's like, I bought your calcifer. I'm like, you did. So she was the one who had purchased calcifer and we talked about calcifer and all this stuff when she was buying it. So they came over. So I came back to my booth and my vendor neighbor was like, thank God people were looking around and I didn't know what I was going to tell them if, you weren't here, but it was fine. So they came back over and all started looking at the stuff and, chatting or whatever. But she got the cappuccino and she was so excited about it and thought it was hilarious and was like, I had to get this. And she ended up posting her cappuccino on her stories. And it was just very fun and exciting. And I was finally able to join they have a WhatsApp book group that does local meetups. And she said, this is that book group. And I had tried to join it at one point. Like I'd filled out the form and I didn't get added. I don't know. It's weird. I'm not great with WhatsApp. So anyways, I got added to that group. And at the end of the night, actually, after all was said and done, I went to the brewery across the street. There was a bigger book group meetup because a bunch of the people from the group had come and shopped the book fair, and then they all met at this brewery. Why can't I speak today? We all got to chat for a bit. It was lovely. So it was very nice and very exciting. And sometimes my really intense hone in focus on a purpose payoff. I hope I didn't scare her away, but it was fun. And I'm excited now to have this book group of people who are reading a lot of the same books as me at the moment and going to bookish themed events, which is nice. So that was fun. Anyways, back to things I sold. Cat holding a heart. So it's the cat holding things pattern. I only had a cat holding a heart and a cat holding a fish. And this person actually had asked me what cat items I had. And at that point, I knew I just had one adoption cat left and one black cat of the Splitting Cats. I completely forgot that I had the cats holding things. And so she was like, I'll just take a look around, whatever. And then she came up with that. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that too. So, oops. That's why I need to be better about making multiple of things so that it's not these onesie twosie items that get lost in my head, rattling around in there. I sold the 2 chubby owls that I had. Again, that's like this owl, but the ones I had for that were, this is Bernat blanket yarn. And I think the yarn I used for that variation was called Times or something. It's the newspaper print grayish white speckle. I'm low on it, so I made this one in white. I'm gonna make another one in white, and then I have a little bit more to make a couple in the other. yarn. I sold 2 chunky chickens, one orange one and one white one. I sold 1 chunky rooster, which is the mod to the Mabel the Chicken pattern. I sold 1 Miffy style bunny, wearing a little striped swimsuit dress and flower in her hair. I sold 1 of the ghost kitties from Sphinx Crochet. I sold the 1 Grimm that I had. I sold Leonard the Lobster, which is a pattern from Tracy from Travel Crochet. And I remember this vividly because I was talking to the person who was shopping and she was like, I love your booth. And we were just talking about the stuff that I had. And she's like, I'm going to get something. I'll be back. I'm like, okay. And she came up with the lobster. She's like, I couldn't resist. I love this lobster. And I said, as a matter of fact, his name, according to the pattern, is Leonard. And she lost her mind. She was like, I love that. And I will hereby be calling him Leonard because, of course, that's his name. So, Tracy, that pattern, that plushie, got all sorts of love. And that's the second time I've had Leonard the Lobster. Second time he sold. People love that lobster. So I need to make more of those. I sold my moss skipper. That was very exciting. I feel like the moss skipper and forest guardian look so cool, but like people always want to know, what's this from? Is this like part of some lore? No, it's just like a really neat mystical character. And so yeah, someone came up with the moss skipper, and I saw it for $60. It was a big boy and had like the weighted pellets in it. It had fur lining it. It had the cloak. They were very excited about it. I sold the little mushroom duck with a booty. That was adorable, and they were very excited about it. I sold 1 pumpkin reminiscent of the Jellycat pumpkins. I sold 1 of the All from Jade slouchy pigs. 3 small snakes. I brought 4, sold 3, made 1 while I was there. So yeah, the snakes and the rats were popping. The exploding cat I talked about. I sold 1 axolotl fidget pop, 2 lily pad pops. I thought it was 3, but I guess it was 2. 1 mushroom pop, 1 of the mushroom frog pops. All of those are the cable and canvas patterns. So those did great. 2 of my 3 heirloom sunflowers. The sunflowers always do great. 1 potted daffodil. I think that's the Minnie's Crochet Friends is the designer for that one. I sold 1 book sleeve, 1 Kindle sleeve, and 2 drink sleeves. Considering I had 5 Kindle sleeves, 5 drink sleeves, and 1 book sleeve, I am very happy with those numbers. It's also really just the second time I've ever brought those to an event, and the first time I've actually displayed them properly. So still room for improvement in how I display them, but this was like a much better instance of working with that. I sold 5 pairs of stitch markers. 3 of those were the derpy ones. I think 1 was a bee pair, and I can't remember what the other one was. 2 pairs of amigurumi sticks. I sold 1 small bat, 1 candy corn, 1 fuzzy capybara. That was kind of surprising that I only sold 1 of those because those usually fly off the shelves. 3 of the ghost dogs. I had brought 5 for this market, so they were doing very well, and I think I need to replenish those quite a bit to get ready for my next market, which is a Halloween market with a pet costume contest and a human costume contest parade. So I definitely feel like I need to like amp up the ghost dogs for that one. And then I sold the 1 hippo, which is all I had. I sold 2 of my kitty adoption kits, which the kitties and the puppies had not been selling recently. It was all the rats and the snakes, but I sold 2 kitties and 2 puppies of the adoption kits. So I was very excited about that. I sold all 10 of my mystery boxes. I need to ramp up my mystery box production before my next event. I sold 2 small opossums. Those are the pattern from the Crochet Carpenter that I recently tested. Super fun, easy pattern, and perfect for like a small make. I sold them for $10 each. I sold 2 positive pickles, 1 positive potato, no vine apples. It was a flip this time. And also, I don't know if it's a display or what, because I feel like normally those are flying off the shelves. But again, it wasn't like the setup I would ideally have for my space if it was a 10 by 10 booth. And there were definitely times where there was like a solid wall of people at my booth looking at the tables, and people were trying to look over to see around and they couldn't because it was just crowded and it was a walkway. So again, I think if like maybe it hadn't been so hot and people could stop and peruse more without being overwhelmed. And again, no fault on the organizer for that one, because this was a way to get the market to still happen with the weather being what it was forecasted to be. So I am very pleased with all of this still. I just think that it was hard for people to get in to see some of this stuff because there were so many people in this space. Like there was apparently a line continuously for the first like 3 hours of the event to even get inside. My husband took some footage of it and I've hopefully shown it already. But yeah, like this was a hopping event. I sold 3 rat adoption kits, 1 mini spider. I only had 1 mini spider. It's the one that had the Feels Like Bliss fuzzy backside. The 1 spooky snail, 1 zombie, 1 siren, little mermaid plushie, 1 large dragon, 2 small dragons. I only had 3 small dragons, and that was something I knew I needed to replenish. I just didn't have time to do. And so I need to like crack down on that before my next one. And then all the rest are swing items. So I sold 1 swing bee, 2 swing chickens, 4 swing ducks, 2 yellow, 2 mallards. I just didn't have time to make more, especially of the yellow ducks. And people asked for yellow ducks, so I definitely need to like do more of those. And 1 penguin. During the holidays, the penguins definitely sell a lot more. So I anticipate I'm going to have to make more of those in preparation for that. But in the meantime, all right. So I had 70 transactions and my gross sales were $1,551.16. I had $10.75 in discount. So those would be the 5% offs that I had. And taxes were $107. So I build the taxes into my pricing. So all of my prices are like a flat $15, $16, whatever. It's built into it. Yeah. So, I mean, like, amazing. Like, could not ask for a better day aside from maybe some airflow. Of my total amount collected, 116 of that was in cash and 1,532 was in card. So kind of a little less cash than I normally see, but I think that's because I actually brought enough ones this time. I had my husband run to the bank for me to change out some 20s into ones, and so therefore no one wanted to pay with cash because I came prepared. Last time I ran out of ones and everyone wanted to pay with cash. It's science. $49.30 Square processing fees. But I only had one issue with my Square where it was like debating whether or not it was going to go through. It ultimately did. I was really worried that the Wi-Fi signal just wasn't going to be great. There was a lot of people in there. It wasn't even Wi-Fi, it was hotspot from my phone. So, yeah, it was a great market. It was super fun. I loved meeting my vendor neighbors. I wish I actually had more time to shop, which I think I would have if my husband had been able to stay in the beginning or like throughout. He did come back and bring that fan and helped me out at the end. So I was able to like wander around just a little bit, but I don't I don't think I actually bought anything because I just didn't really have time to. I I was hungry because I didn't have breakfast because I get stressed out the morning of a market and I just want to get there. So I had assumed my husband would be there with me, so I would be able to have time for that. But he had to rush home, so I didn't have breakfast, and everything just was in full swing before the market even started. So on the other side of me was a little bake shop with cookies and stuff, and so I got a little bag of cookies, and I had a couple of those. They were like little itty bitty cookies. So I had a couple of those before I realized I was going to get sick if I was just eating sugar. So when my husband came back with the fan, he was able to get me a salad, and I appreciated that. And yeah, aside from that, I was chatting with my other neighbor, but that's really all I could do because it was like this wall of people constantly coming by. A great problem to have. Um, Definitely tired at the end of it, but it was so much more than I could have hoped for. And the organizer was fantastic. She checked in on us throughout the day. I'm really excited for the November market. I was really nervous at the start because I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure if I was going to be the only crocheter. I'm pretty sure I was. And I know Sophia from Clever Fox will be at the next one, but we don't really have a lot of overlap in our products either. And again, like it's such a good setup, especially with where it is, that I think even being on the street, like in our tents, it wouldn't be an issue. I think if there's like 4 crocheters, that would be a problem. But generally, I think that it's a good setup to have a couple of us, especially if we don't have a ton of overlapping things. So very excited for the November market. I cannot wait to really get into the prep for that one. But my next focus right now really is the 2 Halloween markets I have coming up. And I'm not going to go heavy into Halloween items. I'm just going to do, the ghost pops, maybe a couple more pumpkins to replenish things. But aside from that, I have been working on my list of things that I want to make. And it is, of course, completely unattainable. But, I already crossed off the shrimp and the hippos and one of the 4 owls I plan on making. But this is all going to be about batch makes. So, I need to replenish the mystery boxes. I want to have 4 sets of each going into this next market because my next market is going to be a Friday night immediately followed by the Saturday day. And knowing the organizers of those markets and kind of the advertising efforts they put into it, I think those markets are going to be hopping. So I just want to make sure I have enough of things that tend to really do well. And I think those mystery boxes are going to be it, as well as the swing creatures. I have 6 yellow ducks on my list to make, and hopefully that's even enough. I might need to do more than that. I have some more sunflowers, rats and snakes, again for the adoption kits, more of the very punny items like the axolotl, the cappuccino, the lily pad poppers were really popular this time. Aside from that, small dragons. I want to do more of the All from Jade slouchy pigs and pigeons, more Totoros, calcifers. Anything else really notable? I'm going to start to bring in the holiday items. So I did the penguin pipsqueak pattern last year. I'll probably do some more of those. I want to do the new shelf goose from Crochet Grove because I'm in her Patreon, so I got that pattern. Oh, I do want to do Bluey from Travel Crochet. I got her Bluey pattern, and I've never done Bluey before. I've honestly never really seen Bluey before. Like, I've seen snippets of it, and I hear that it's delightful. But also, I want to do Taco Cat and Hot Dog from Ally Crochet because Halloween market, of course, I need animals in costumes. And Dino Rex on that note, too. And then I want to replenish my gachapon. Also, some fairy dragons. So a completely reasonable list that is not overwhelming in any way, shape, or form to be done within 3 weeks. It's fine. What could go wrong? Knock on wood. Yeah, so that is my market recap for my book fair. What did you think? Were there any surprises from that recap? Any things that you think I should throw into the mix for next time? I do have a couple things. I don't know if you like zoomed in and saw anything in here that I have not done before, but I gave a little spoiler to last time of wanting to make. So hopefully I can actually do that this time. We'll see. But a lot of fun plans, big markets to get ready for. I do not have a huge number of markets this fall season, but the ones that I did get into that I'm aware of for the time being, I'm still waiting on a couple of markets for December. I think they're going to be pretty solid markets. So I'm not necessarily worried about not having enough to do, like not having enough markets to participate in, but I am really thinking about how I can best optimize my time and prep to get ready for those. So it's crunch time. I cannot wait to follow up with you all next week with any updates. I have a feeling I will have a lot done just based on my to-do list that I'm kind of cranking out right now. And make sure you check my shorts too, because I do the crochet roulette challenge updates on there, and you can see what we are working on this time, as well as until the challenge runs through. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please consider hitting that like button if you did, and subscribing to follow along for more market updates and any other fun crochet business news that I might have. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.